Several floors down, we came to the place where the C4 destroyed the stairwell. Twisted steel hung out into space. Support brackets threatened to fall at a touch. A gap 6 feet across and downwards loomed before us. Lopez shot a zom climbing up the twisted handrails. The zombies above us were descending quickly. We had to jump if we wanted to escape. Now or never. Lopez and Wilcox leapt to the landing on the other side. They made it look easy, but I knew it wasn't. I looked out over the edge and froze in fear. A fall of 300 feet loomed beneath me if I didn't reach the other side. If I landed wrong or tumbled, I'd fall to my death. For my whole life I was terrified of heights. Jill looked at me and saw my terror. "You can do it. It's only 5 feet across." She tried to diminish my fears. I was sure it was at least 6 feet, but the monocular goggles distorted my depth perception. I stammered, and she stepped up to me. Staring at me in my one-eyed goggles with hers, I smiled nervously. "You take my backpack and gun. I'll go first, then you toss over the gear. It's easy. Just jump like we did in track in high school. You remember, the long jump. Squat down and leap. Stretch your arms out, I'll catch you. Watch me, and then you follow. Got it?" Jill said. Lopez yelled for us to jump. I nodded as Jill handed me her shotgun and struggled out of her backpack. "Go, guys. Now would be good," Connors said from the landing above us. He fired a grenade into a hallway. Above him, Escobar killed zombies coming down the stairs. When I looked back, Jill was on the other side of the gap, yelling at me to throw over the gear. As I tossed it across, Escobar backed down to the landing, and Connors was standing beside me. "You doing anything important?" he asked. "Not really," I replied as I tucked my fear away along with my horror and leapt forward as hard as I could. The only thought in my head was a resigned, "This is the end," 300 feet down. Crashing into Jill, who tried to catch me, we both laughed together as we stumbled and then regained our feet. "Out of the way!" Connors yelled, and before we could move, he landed on his feet beside us. I picked up my shotgun and blasted a zombie about to grab Escobar. The man turned, stepped down, and leapt over the gap. He landed beside us and struggled to keep upright. The zombie I had shot lunged forward across the gap as it died and grabbed Escobar's shirt. He staggered backwards, off balance, as the zombie pulled him out over the edge of the stairwell. Connors and I grasped Escobar's flailing arms, pulling him to safety as Jill shot the zombie's arm off. The creature fell to its death, but it had torn Escobar's shirt, possibly scratching his skin. I silently hoped he wasn't infected. Lopez and Wilcox moved down the stairs, clearing the way. Zombies fell as they staggered blindly over the edge of the destroyed stairway. The leaders had split their group into thirds. Some went up the other stairs, and as we moved down they lost ground behind us. Others came from the doorways on each floor, and we shot them as we went by. Still others were below us. The men surrounded Jill and me with 2 above and 2 below, not because we were women, but because we carried shotguns. Highly effective at close range, shotguns require a great deal of time to reload. As we passed another landing, the men below clearing the way and the men above covering our backs, a zombie turned a corner and grabbed my arm. It pulled me forward, and I stumbled. My shotgun fell from my hands as rotting teeth gnashed toward my fingers. Jill rammed the bayonet on her shotgun into the monster's mouth. It let me go as it grasped Jill's shotgun barrel, pulling her through the doorway. I reached for my revolver, but Jill fired both barrels. Instantly headless, the zombie fell backward. Retrieving my shotgun, I raised the muzzle just in time to shoot another zombie while Jill broke open her shotgun and reloaded. I didn't know how many zombs remained, and we were not even close to finding the jammer. We had killed 2 or 3 dozen zombies, although to hear the men's counting you'd think we'd killed an entire army. On my third pause to reload the Model 12, I noticed that my ammunition bandolier was running low. I slung the Model 12 over my shoulder and unholstered my .44. Twice I spotted a drop pistol on the stairs and retrieved each one. Shooting left-handed, I used up the rounds in those pistols and then switched back to the .44 in my right hand. To our advantage, the zombies fired randomly, wasting their ammo with entirely blind fire. Random blasts splattered us with concrete from the walls. Only the zombs with shotguns were really dangerous, and those were usually the leaders. We killed 3 leaders going down the stairs, but not before Connors caught a round in the leg. Jill and I protected him while he tightened a belt around his thigh as a tourniquet. The 4th leader dropped from a .44 caliber slug to the chest, and the zombs seemed to slow their advance. The ones above us stopped in their confusion. Several, staring into space, waved axes or knives erratically. With Connors limping on his wounded leg and leaning on Escobar, we reached the lobby level where a new wave of zombies crowded through the door. Our only escape was down to the basement level. It was a dead end, but we saw no zombies in that direction. Once again, the zombies were forced to come at us 1 or 2 at a time, but we could fight them off only 1 or 2 at a time. Escobar helped Connors through the group. Lopez, Jill, and I took turns with our shotguns, firing, reloading, and firing again. We reached the bottom and went through a metal door. "Barricade it!" Lopez yelled as I slammed it shut. Old filing cabinets lined the walls. "These things!" I yelled as I started to pull one of the cabinets by a drawer handle. It didn't move an inch. "Get out of the way, girly girl," Wilcox hollered as he and Escobar pulled and pushed on the nearest filing cabinet. It toppled over and blocked the doorway just as the zombies shoved the door open with their claw-like hands. Jill jumped on top of the filing cabinet, thrust her shotgun through the opening, and fired both barrels. The claws withdrew as Lopez, Wilcox, and Escobar shoved the metal box against the door, jamming it closed. They hoisted a second filing cabinet on top as Jill leapt clear. With the door barricaded, we looked around the room. There was no escape. Coming down to the basement was a stupid idea. An old memory from a grade school field trip came to mind. "Tunnels!" I yelled. The others, bewildered, stared at me. "Downtown Tulsa has tunnels beneath it." "What?" Wilcox asked. "Tunnels. Look. They're like 100 years old. I did a tour in elementary school." "I've heard of them," Lopez said. "Millionaire oilmen were scared of kidnappers. They used them to get from one building to another. But they don't extend this far south." "No, they do. The tunnels were expanded when they built this tower. Something to do with adding to the tourist industry. Plus they were still used, a year ago anyway, moving freight or something and as tourist attractions. Do you think the Zoms know about them? Not if the leaders don't know. Where are they? Where's the entrance?" We were in a very large storeroom with a freight elevator door at one wall. Dust-covered crates and storage boxes were piled high. At the far end of the room was a door. I ran to it and turned the door handle. It was unlocked. Inside was a concrete-lined passageway leading into darkness. "This is it." I knew that it had to be. "Are you sure?" Jill asked as she ran to my side. An empty hole clattered across the floor as I racked the slide on my shotgun. She accepted that as an answer, and I slammed a new shell home. "They're pushing the door. The cabinets are sliding," Escobar said from the barricade as he gave up trying to hold back the tide, and instead drilled the door with bullets. We all ran through the second doorway into the passageway, and Lopez closed the door behind us. He looked around for something to bar the door with. The hallway was empty. The screech of metal rang like nails on a chalkboard as the filing cabinets were shoved and pushed out of the way.